Hey, it's Justin from Optimal Living Daily. Before we start, I want to share a super powerful practice I use called NSDR, or non-sleep deep rest. In just about 10 minutes or so, this yoga nidra practice leaves you feeling as refreshed as after a nap without actually sleeping. Experience it for yourself on our guided podcast. Search NSDR and look for the one from Optimal Living Daily.
Have you ever noticed how a calm mind can really set the stage for a good night's sleep? That's the idea behind our new podcast, Good Sleep. Greg, our host from Optimal Relationships Daily, is here to help ease you into a peaceful night's rest with some positive affirmations. And these affirmations aren't just comforting. They can help ease anxiety and nurture positive thoughts, setting you up for true good sleep. So press play on Good Sleep tonight, because a good tomorrow starts with a good night's sleep. Just search for Good Sleep in your podcast app and be sure to pick the one from Optimal Living Daily. This is Optimal Finance Daily, Why There's No Best Way to Invest, by Chris Reining of chrisreining.com. It's Sunday morning, and every Sunday morning I walk down the street to this meditation center to sit and meditate for an hour. You might remember that time I went to a 10-day silent meditation retreat. When I got back, I was meditating 2 hours every day because that's what the instructor told us to do. Well, you can probably guess that meditating for 2 hours a day doesn't last very long unless you're some monk living up in the mountains. In the real world, 2 hours turns into 1 hour, and 1 hour turns into 30 minutes. Luckily, the 30 minutes stuck, but I like to stretch it to an hour on Sundays. Anyways, at this center, there's always an umze, a timekeeper who rings a gong every 30 minutes. The gong lets you know that it's time to stand and do 5 minutes of walking meditation. So last Sunday, the umze rings the gong. Everyone gets up and starts walking the perimeter of the room. 5 minutes comes and goes, and we're still walking. Then another 5 minutes, still walking. Now I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to sit down because I came here to meditate. Finally, the gong rings. As I'm settling back onto the cushion, it strikes me. I had 2 equally beneficial choices. First, keep walking. That would cultivate patience, a desirable trait. Second, go sit down. Taking action is also a desirable trait. So what's the best answer? Of course, there's no best answer. Each choice comes with its own set of benefits and drawbacks. And that's what I'm learning lately. Things are never black and white, only shades of gray, which is why you hear so much conflicting advice about investing. For example, sell in May and go away. Also, don't time the market. Diversify. Also, put all your eggs in one basket and watch that basket. The trend is your friend. Also, don't follow the herd. Pay up for high-quality stocks. Also, never overpay. Get out when you get even. Also, cut your losses and move on. It's not a loss, it's a buying opportunity. Also, don't lose money. This time is different. Also, stay the course. And don't catch a falling knife. Also, buy the dip. And while I'm sitting here typing these, I started thinking how the same can be said about your career and life. Have mentors and trusted advisors. Also, listen to your intuition. Implement habits and routines. Also, don't get stuck in a rut. Be persistent and disciplined. Also, fail fast and fail often. Become self-reliant. Also, outsource your life. Take the slow and steady approach. Also, take risks. Work 100-hour weeks. Also, get 9 hours of sleep. Think big picture. Also, zone in on the details. And focus on scaling. Also, do things that don't scale. Take this last one. I was thinking that if you email me, you get a reply. I've responded to literally thousands of emails, probably tens of thousands. And you can make the argument that sending personal email doesn't scale. It's a waste of time when you can be doing 100 other things that do scale. You'd be right, but you do it because you also enjoy doing it, because you enjoy serving people. And some emailers, perfect strangers, have become friends. There are email chains spanning hundreds of messages and multiple years. Yeah, I do things that scale too, like writing this article. But what's important is knowing why you're doing the things the way you're doing them, always challenging your beliefs. What I'm trying to say is don't just take whatever advice you hear and blindly follow it, because nothing in life is so black and white. Investing, just like your career and life, consists of choices that come with their own benefits and drawbacks. As long as you understand that, you're going to be just fine. You may need to save only half as much money for retirement by Chris Reining of chrisreining.com. I was born in 1979. If my parents had invested $1,000 in a no-fee S&P 500 index fund and had reinvested all dividends, the stake would have grown to be worth $80,601 on my 40th birthday. That's a gain of 81 for 1. Meanwhile, a $1 million investment by the endowment at a college would have grown to over 80 million. But here's the math that's hardest to believe. If the college had paid a seemingly small 2% investment fee, then its gain would have been cut by half to just 39 million. That's what happens over 40 years when the 11.6% annual return achieved by the S&P 500 is recalculated at a 9.6% rate. Warren Buffett once estimated that endowments and pension funds and wealthy people wasted $100 billion on fees over a 10-year period. But how much do fees matter for someone investing $100,000? Firstly, they could buy low-cost index funds, building a simple portfolio of stock and bond funds charging close to a 0% fee, say 0.02% blended. If the investments earn 8% over the next 40 years, the $100,000 would have grown to be worth $2.156 million. Secondly, they could invest the entire $100,000 into a single life cycle or target date fund, charging a 0.75% fee. If the investment earns the same 8% over the next 40 years, it will have grown to be worth $1.644 million. Think about that. You lose over $500,000 just from this small difference in fees, because small amounts multiplied over 40 years always become big amounts at the end. Everyone loves talking about how compound interest is key to building wealth, but it cuts both ways. Fees compound too. Lastly, they could hire professional help, just like an endowment or wealthy person might. A typical advisor charges a management fee, and having $100,000 under management will cost roughly 1.25%. Combined with the underlying investment fees, the all-in cost is closer to 1.85%. If the advisor returns 8% over the next 40 years, the $100,000 investment will have grown to be worth $1,088,000. This time, the small difference in fees causes up to $1 million shortfall. There's another way to look at that. If you learn to manage your own money rather than paying a 2% fee, you may need to save only half as much money for retirement. Incidentally, fees are how cities like Las Vegas get built, transferring small amounts of money from customers' pockets to casinos' coffers. But like most in life, there's no right way to invest. Naturally, some people don't have the time nor interest to invest on their own. They'll happily pay someone else to do it for them. There's no problem with that. The problem is when people think their money is buying them something better. Actually, it's quite common. You always expect more when you spend more, whether on a hotel, piece of jewelry, restaurant, or whatever. But with investing, the opposite is often true. The more you spend, the less you get, and the harder it becomes to reach the level of wealth to which you aspire. You just listened to the post titled, "Why There's No Best Way to Invest," and you may need to save only half as much money for retirement. Both by Chris Reining of chrisreining.com. This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Does this sound familiar? You're in line at checkout, cart full of items, your toddler is screaming for a treat, and you left your wallet in the car. Or was it at home? No need to panic. With your iPhone in hand, you can tap to pay using Apple Card with Apple Pay, and you'll earn 2% daily cash back when you do. So if your credit card isn't Apple Card, maybe it should be. Subject to credit approval. Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I really enjoyed the first article today. While I was reading all the conflicting advice about investing and life in general, what stood out to me is that context is the defining variable when deciding which perspective to apply at any one moment. And apparent contradictions can also be simultaneously true. So for example, diversify, but also put all your eggs in one basket and watch that basket. I've got all my eggs in one basket in that I invest everything in a low-fee total market index fund called VTSAX. But it's also well diversified as I'm essentially buying the entire stock market versus picking stocks. Another example, have mentors and trusted advisors, but also listen to your intuition. I value the opinions of my mentors and support system, but at the end of the day, I use my intuition to decide if their advice resonates with me. And I also appreciate the second article today, which was a good reminder how fees can erode your wealth over time. It's clear to me that by the time you know enough about money to be in the position to properly select a financial advisor to manage your investments, you'll know enough not to need one. While many of us feel insecure about managing our money ourselves, the cost of working with a financial advisor that charges asset under management fees is simply too high. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on tomorrow's show, where your optimal life awaits.